My name is Ranya Hasan.
And my name is Loren Sanders, and we are here today to talk to you about the 4 taxes of transition, which is a strategic framework for leading through change as women working in tech. Let's get started. People talk about glass ceilings all the time, but before you ever reach the glass ceiling as a woman, you're taxed just for showing up. It's a game, and the game has rules. The first rule is you're evaluated the minute you enter this space. You probably didn't know this, but you've definitely felt it because the game is rigged. The rules aren't written down because if they were, you'd never join in.
So women are often taxed for their strengths, their personalities, or merely what they bring to the table. It reminds us of how when we purchase something, there's a tax placed on it. If you think about it, that tax, it goes to an entity for a purpose. The question we ask you today is, what is the purpose of taxing women? This framework that Loren and I will share with you today, it's for you. The you that has perhaps ever been too much of something, too ambitious, too direct. Is this sounding familiar? Too quiet, too loud, too emotional, too intense. I'm sure you can fill in your own blank because every woman has one. And we actually do want you to fill in this blank. So today we have an action item. So you're going to find a post that is shared to both Loren and I's personal LinkedIns. And after our presentation, we'd like for you to go and comment, what is your too much of something? We encourage you to share as we build community today. This will be our first action item together. But I also want to share with you that nobody's ever been too much of something for being mediocre. They only label the ones they're threatened by. Your too much is someone else's ceiling shattering. What we call feedback is often a labeling system, and labels are not neutral. They come with a cost. So in this framework, we call that cost a tax. Being mediocre is safe. It doesn't disrupt anything. It doesn't shift power, and labels are reserved for people who create movement. And movement, you guessed it, creates threat. So when a woman is called too ambitious, what's actually happening is she has exceeded an unspoken limit. When she is too direct, she's communicating with a level of clarity that challenges hierarchy. When she's too quiet, she's no longer performing comfort for others. The label's not the issue. The issue is you get watched differently. Your tone gets policed. Your decisions get questioned. This is that cost that we're trying to bring your attention to. And slowly, what happens? That woman or you start adjusting. You edit yourself, you shrink, or you overcompensate. So this is where the first tax begins, not in your performance, but in your self-regulation. And mental health and organizational research confirms this. Women operate within narrow bands of acceptable behavior compared to men. Too strong, you're penalized. Too soft, you're penalized. It's a double bond, a double bind. No position is completely safe. So here's the reframe. Your too much is not a flaw, it's data. It's actually evidence that you're operating beyond the comfort zone of the system around you. And anything that threatens the ceiling will always be labeled before it is understood.
56% of women leave tech in the first 10 years. 56%. That's not a pipeline problem. That is rejection at scale. If over half the women leave within 10 years, the system isn't championing talent. It's exhausting it. You're 2 times more likely to be asked to take notes. 2 times more likely to be called aggressive when you're being assertive and have boundaries. That is pressure that can build up. And as we look at the next slide, we can see you're told to advocate for yourself, but you're punished when you do it. You're told to speak up, and then you're evaluated based on how you sound doing it. Have you ever left a meeting replaying your tone instead of the wonderful ideas that you shared? This is why. This is a constraint. You are being asked to be exceptional, but only in ways that don't disrupt anything. You can be visible or you can be comfortable. That standard moves based on who you are and what you're willing to accept.
So we want to believe that systems are neutral and that policies are fair, that feedback is objective, and that decisions are based on merit. But they're not. And I'm sure you have experienced this. So what you're looking at here is what we call the label trap. Not a culture fit. When they say that, what do they mean? It means she made someone feel uncomfortable. She's difficult to work with. That means she has standards. She lacks executive presence. Have you ever gotten that one when you were up for a promotion? It means she doesn't look or sound like what the system is used to rewarding. So this is how bias survives, not loudly, but linguistically, because systems don't have to say, I don't accept you. They just have to rename you. You ever hear of rewriting the narrative? Sort of like that. So how do they rewrite it? Your performance is interpreted differently. Your behavior is filtered differently, and your potential is evaluated differently. So research in organizational psychology shows that feedback given to women is more likely to be personality-based, while feedback given to men is more likely to be skill-based. So that means women are not being coached, they're being corrected. So when we say systems aren't neutral, what we mean is they're built on historical definitions of what leadership looks like, sounds like, or feels like. So the question is not, why am I being labeled? The question is, what system am I disrupting that requires a label to contain me?
And as we start to investigate that, we want you to move from seeing the fault lines to building foundations. You don't fix that by working harder. You can't outwork it. You do it by mapping your own response to it. By mapping, I mean, name the fault lines in your specific system. Those are the patterns that you see. There are invisible forces that you can dismantle, but you have to be able to see them first. Then measure, quantify the cost. That's your time. That's your opportunities. That's your mental load, your salary. Make the invisible visible, because if you can't quantify it, it's easily deniable by others. Then move. Choose what intervention you're going to have. You can either stay and disrupt it, you can build a coalition, or you can leave and build something better. Whatever response you choose, it's strategic. Then multiply. And you do that by sharing what you know. You can only scale it when you stop surviving alone. If you keep everything to yourself, this is going to keep happening. And then there'll be a backlash arc. That backlash arc, if you've ever felt like things changed and you couldn't prove it, it's this pattern. First, we have the honeymoon trap. We need new perspectives. We hired you to shake things up. You get a platform, you get resources, but you're being tested. You're not being embraced. They're not looking for innovation that threatens power structures. That's when you see the first crack. You think, that's a fault line. And you start getting tabled. You propose something transformative and it changes the energy in the room. And suddenly, oh no, you're shifted. We need you on an urgent project, not this thing. We need you to mentor people. We need you to do training. You start to get strategically overloaded because you're now essential to every single urgent thing. That's you being neutralized. Your calendar will be filled with meetings. It sounds like it's opportunity. That is neutralization, my friends. You're too busy to be dangerous or cause problems. Then comes the isolation. social quarantine, you'll hear, we're going to circle back with you. Your emails get answered more slowly. People start acting weird around you. You're no longer in those informal channels. Then you start to reframe it and you realize, maybe there's a case being built against me. Your passion can turn aggressive if you're not careful. Your clarity might be seen as you being inflexible, but your persistence is you not being a team player, and your confidence is reframed as lacking humility. That's a common sequence. That's not random.
So every transition brings you to a choice point, and it doesn't always feel like a choice. Accommodate and survive, or leave and preserve yourself, or double down and risk everything. So from a mental health perspective, this is not just decision making, it's nervous system negotiation. When women experience repeated labeling, bias, or resistance, the brain begins to scan for safety. Where am I least likely to be punished? Where can I stay accepted? Where do I minimize harm? This is what we call adaptive coping. And it's important to say this clearly. These choices are not weakness. They're intelligent responses to chronic stress environments. From a cognitive behavioral therapy lens, each of these choices is shaped by underlying cognitions. What belief is driving this decision? If I speak up, I'll be punished. If I stay quiet, I'll stay safe. If I leave, I'll lose everything. These are not random thoughts. They are learned cognitive schemas built from repeated work experiences. From a trauma-informed care perspective, we ask a different kind of question. Not what's wrong with this reaction, but rather what happened that made this response necessary. Because many women are not overreacting. They're responding to pattern environments of invalidation, scrutiny, unpredictability. But here's where it becomes costly. Accommodating too long, it leads to burnout, emotional suppression, identity erosion. So leaving without support, what does that do? It can trigger your grief, your instability, your loss of professional continuity. Doubling down without protection, it can lead to chronic anxiety, hypervigilance, and isolation. So when it feels like there is no option here that is mentally neutral, it gets difficult. And then when we start to talk about women of color, this choice point becomes even more complex because now it's just not gender, it's race and culture and perception. So psychological research calls this intersectional stress load, multiple layers of identity being evaluated at the same time, which means the cost of being misunderstood is that much louder. And the consequences of being visible are that much higher. And the margin of error, smaller. So when we say the tax is higher, we are not just like metaphorically speaking. We are talking about cognitive load, emotional labor, psychological stress responses that compound over time, all pun intended. So the real question at the choice point is not what should I do? It's what will this decision cost me mentally, emotionally, strategically? Because awareness is the first step to reclaiming control. So let's talk about how can you disrupt the system? So disruption, I'm going to be clear, it's not misunderstood. Believe it or not, it is actually predicted. When you challenge a system, the system responds. Not because you're wrong, but because you're effective. So backlash is not a sign that something is broken. It's actually a sign that something is working. So the first move, name it. I notice I've been added to 8 committees while my proposal sits untouched. This is not a coincidence. This is what Loren previously explained to you is redistribution of your time and influence. They're basically tiring you out. They're making you busy. So from a psychological lens, making the pattern or naming the pattern interrupts cognitive distortion. It moves you out of confusion and into clarity. Second, document, 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 because systems rely on informal memory, and informal memory is biased. So emails, patterns, decisions, you are not being difficult. You are creating an evidence trail. Research and organizational behavior shows that documented contributions significantly increase perceived credibility and promotion outcomes. Without it, your impact disappears. Third, you want to build your coalition before you need it. Because power is not just about performance. Power is about proximity, alignment, protection. Social capital research is clear. Decisions are not made in rooms. They are made before the room. So remember this step, because just on the next slide, you will have an opportunity to start building your coalition. We're going to help you do the work. Finally, know your exit strategy, not as a defeat, but as an agency. So from a mental health perspective, having an exit strategy reduces chronic stress activation. Why? It restores a sense of control. You have an option. It feels terrible when you feel like you don't have options. So because when you know you can leave, you end up negotiating differently. You speak differently. You lead differently. So if you are experiencing backlash, don't ask, why is this happening to me? We want you to ask, what did I disrupt that required this response? Because disruption without backlash is not disruption at all.
Friends, it's really important that you create your own community. Scan this space that you're in right now. These are the people that understand what others minimize, and isolation is how the tax grows and how these systems continue to sustain themselves. Find your people, make the change together. Find one person here you didn't know. That is your first coalition move. Survival is individual, change is collective, and you are not powerless.
So let's do the work for you, or at least start it. Our coalition building begins today. We want you to start using this hashtag disrupt by design. So any posts or comments you're making at this conference, or such as the post or comment we're asking you to make on Loren and I's LinkedIn, hashtag it, disrupt by design. But let's go beyond that. Use this hashtag over the next month on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Maybe when you see a post that resonates with you, or you see a post that helps you continue the topics discussed at this conference or inspires you. Loren and I will be following up on this hashtag for the next month. And if you use it, you will have started helping us build our coalition, as Loren and I have a lot in mind for those who take part in this coalition. Just flash forward, you will be contacted.
Find an ally in this space. You've already got two. This is how you contact us.
We want to thank you for attending our presentation. And like Loren said, our contact information is here. Feel free, drop us a line, let us know what's going on. We'd love to chat and continue this conversation with anyone who's interested. Thank you.